All right, so the Class 90, finally, at last, a locomotive for freight for the UK that's not the bloody Class 66. At last, we have been waiting for this for a good, I believe, 8 years or so at this point. So it's finally nice to have a refreshing experience when it comes to freight. Thank you, Alan Thompson. However, this one is, as I like to say, interesting. I'll start off with the positives, as you can tell by the title and maybe the thumbnail, depending on how I've designed it. This isn't exactly the most, it's not exactly a logo that's going to get the most praise from myself. But of course, there are some good things about it. The first and foremost being the fact that it's something else for the UK other than the 66. As I've touched on already, I think that's going to be the main pull for people to buy this locomotive. And to be honest, because of that, I think even if everyone that reviews this locomotive, all the ambassadors, all the early purchasers have somewhat of a more negative review of the loco, people will still buy it just for that fact. And so, I mean, in that case, it kind of is what it is. And ultimately, it's not so completely terribly unplayable that you can't drive with it and still have, a decent time. It does come with multiple liveries. For the first time, we're getting the Freightliner livery officially. We've enjoyed it, especially if you're on PC. Well, only if you're on PC, realistically. I guess there is also Creators Club for consoles. So, yeah, mostly on PC. You would have probably enjoyed it through various different mods, as well as some other liveries such as Colas and GBRF. But it's good to finally have the livery available for everyone and not just one variant as well. So it's nice to have that. It's nice to have just a variety of liveries in general. Just Strains have been quite good to us in that regard as well. But generally speaking, when it comes to a train or a locomotive of any sort with more than one livery, honestly, it's been like trying to draw blood from a stone. So hopefully this sets the standard moving forward for future locomotive releases. And if other third party or DTG themselves don't follow this, then fingers crossed, Joss Strains and Alan Thompson will continue to carry that torch. So that's a second good thing. Uh, I mean, in terms of kind of just driving the locomotive in general, when things work well, they work well. But having had a good blast at it myself for, I think, just under a week now, um, it the truth is, it mostly is going to be negative. Now, I am recording this about less than 12 hours before the public release. I'm actually releasing this after midnight on the day of the release. So there's just over 9 hours left until the release, and I and other ambassadors have been bringing up certain complaints about this particular piece of DLC, and we have been hoping that prior to today, the issues would have been sorted. And a new build given. I was thinking perhaps we've been given the wrong build. However, it doesn't seem to be that way. So I've made a little list of my own of the issues that I have personally experienced. I would advise you to check out the other ambassadors' content to see potentially some other issues, or honestly, just to hear a different opinion. I think if you're going to listen to a video like this and use it to determine whether you purchase a piece of content or not, always, always, always have a look around. Listen to what other people have to say as well, and base your decision off multiple different sources of information. So I'll start with, I mean, these are not in any particular order in this list I've got, but I'll begin with and this is not the most egregious either. Just so you know, this is not the worst issue that I've experienced, but one of them was seemingly non-existent wheel slip. Now, this came from me driving the train in both snowy and wet conditions, and this can actually be seen in the scenarios that are coming, and also um, the full run that I did of the Class 90, which should already be out. I have put the throttle on. The first time I noticed it, I had the throttle on 87% from less than 10 miles per hour in snowy conditions. So, worst case scenario for trains in the game where you will always get wheel slip. And there was nothing. And honestly, this is a fairly powerful locomotive. So it doesn't make any sense to me that putting the throttle on at 87% or in other situations, completely maxing it out where the rails are slippery, you're traveling at less than 10 miles per hour, or in one situation, less than 5 miles per hour, and there's just zero wheel slip. Completely strange. Now, you know, is there a slight possibility, no matter how small, that this is somehow prototypical to the real thing? Yes, but let's be real, it's not. There's no way. I can't be convinced until I see the real thing, behave in a similar way. So that's quite a strange thing because we've never experienced that before, as far as I'm aware. In the game, no matter how bad a train is made, no matter how bad it's been developed, this is a very basic thing that that train would have. So that's quite interesting. The second one is regarding the safety system. Now, I believe Matt on the preview stream had an issue with this. If you, as I would assume one would normally do, turn on the safety systems prior to doing anything else on the train, you will not be able to get this train moving no matter what you do. So ensure, if you are going to use safety systems, you put the master key in, and from that point, I believe you can turn them on, whether the reverser is still in neutral, whether it's in forward or reverse. As long as the train is already on, then you can activate the safety systems. So something to be aware of if you are going to buy this DLC and have a go with it, but also something that doesn't seem to make sense. I've never seen this on any other train, so I cannot believe that it's something akin to the real thing. The third thing that I've got here is regarding the safety systems again. If you don't turn them off before changing from forwards to reverse or from reverse to forwards, you won't move. I don't know what it is with these safety systems. I think a lot of people will say it was bad enough toggling DSD through a sticker. I'm not happy with it personally. I'm just gonna sort of go on a bit of a tangent. I'm not happy with that personally, but I understand they didn't have access to a real one, so it kind of is what it is. I think if they did have access to a real one and then didn't model it anyway, then I think a lot of the criticism in general would be a lot more valid. But anyway, going back to the safety systems themselves as a whole, yeah, if you're on forwards and then want to put the locomotive into reverse, the train won't move. If you're in reverse, you want to put the locomotive in forward, it won't move. You will need to turn them off and then turn them back on once you've got the reverser in the position that you desire. So very similar to the previous point. The other thing that I've got written down is if you're caught out by, well, I'll explain the situation and you can make what you will of it. There is one scenario, I believe it's the one called Christmas Delivery, where you're driving in the snow. Watford Junction, as far as I've been told, has a TPWS magnet if you're heading towards Milton Keynes, in the Milton Keynes direction, that will trip you up where it shouldn't. I don't know the specifics of it. All I know is it shouldn't trip you up, and it does. Now, this magnet trips me up. And what I would usually do with TPWS, or what you should normally do, is go into full braking. You wait for the red light on the TPWS indicator to go off, and then you can release the brakes, and the brakes should release. If you don't wait for the red light to go off, the brakes will remain on their maximum application. So, as the train came to a stop, the red light was on for the TPWS. So I did what I normally do, and I put the brakes to maximum. As a matter of fact, I put them into emergency, and I kept them in emergency. Now, as they were still in emergency, I hadn't moved them from emergency position. The red light on the TPWS came off and the brakes released. The brakes released while I had them in the emergency position. Not quite sure what to make of that. That kind of speaks for itself. So yeah, is what it is. Um, Now, this is a more serious one. I probably should have started with this in all honesty. This is more specific to the console players, and if you play with a controller on PC, this is a huge one, huge one. And do forgive me for not leading with this. If the alerter goes off, whether it's DSD, whether it's AWS, you cannot clear it with a controller. You cannot clear it with a controller, meaning if you are on console and you do not have a keyboard plugged in, you will need to manually look at the button or the pedal. I don't actually know exactly what the setup is there. I've just used the keyboard so far, my keyboard. But you will need to do it manually, meaning you will sort of disrupt your view in terms of looking ahead. And depending on where it is and how quick your thumb moves, you may not actually reach it in time and end up dealing with emergency brake applications constantly. Yes, quite annoying and a very, very, very serious problem. This should not have made it to release, but unless a patch comes out in the next 8.5 hours, sorry, 9.5 hours, it will. And that is very, very disappointing from all parties involved. In terms of the things that are a bit less serious, with regards to the GSMR, I believe this is a core issue. But once you set up the GSMR, at some point during the run, I'm not sure if there's something that specifically triggers this, but at some point during the run, it will simply turn off and you will need to deregister it and then re-register it for it to come back on. It's a shame that this bug seems to be one that has remained consistent for as long as it has. But unfortunately, Dovetail Games don't have the best track record of dealing with long-standing bugs. Another issue is that for some reason, I don't drive with windows open. I don't normally open the windows of trains that I drive, regardless of what I'm driving. However, for some reason, driving this train, every passing train, not only did it sound like the window was open on the locomotive when it wasn't, but it sounded like you had opened the window of the locomotive and stuck your head out so that your ear was about 1 centimeter away from every passing train. They were that loud. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Constantly having to deal with trains deafening you as they're going past. Generally speaking in the game, passing trains audio is very, very, very hit and miss. But this is just a different level, unfortunately. And the last one I have written, just regarding the scenarios, the dialogue. I mean, scenarios usually aren't the most spectacular thing in TSW. I criticize it so often. We do have some gems, but generally speaking, the game isn't great with this with scenarios. But the dialogue in these particular ones that come with this train are just so simple. So simple, so basic, barely any creativity, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, no, barely any creativity. It's scenarios that we've had over and over again, drive in the snow, there's a failed train, go and pick it up. I mean, it's just the same old with every DLC. There was an okay one in terms of uniqueness where you're driving a freight train. Spoiler, I guess, by the way. You're driving a freight train, obviously, and you apparently are taking a couple wagons that you weren't meant to. So you go to a siding and then reverse the locomotive in a very seemingly uh, extra way. Like, I feel like there was a lot simpler of a way to do the reversing move, but anyway, it is what it is. And then you drive back the way you came. And that's it in terms of the list I have. In terms of the general experience driving this loco over the past week or so, it's okay. Like I said in the beginning, when it works fine, yeah, it's fine, right? Just driving itself, it does seem very powerful. But according to what Alan Thompson did say on the preview stream, this is prototypical. It's quite a powerful locomotive, and you really feel it if you're driving the loco by itself. 12.99, I think, for generally speaking, for just a single train or a loco with a few scenarios. Um, eh, I mean, I think I say wait for a sale almost every single time. Like even a 10-20% off, generally speaking, I think 12.99 is, unless it's a really, really, really well detailed train. Yeah, it's just a bit expensive in my opinion. With this one specifically, as it stands today on release day, well, recording it pre-release by some hours, my advice, generally speaking, is don't buy it yet until at least most of these issues, or at least the more serious ones, are ironed out. Don't buy this DLC. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just advising you what to do. If you deem the reason, sort of the bad issues that I've given, not enough to put you off, then go for it. If you're desperate to just have anything other than a 66, go for it. Just know you will not be buying a polished product by any stretch of the imagination. So I'll leave that be a decision for you to make. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Am I going a bit too hard for this one? Honestly, am I not going hard enough? Let me know what your opinions are. If you've had a go with it, let me know how you found it. Have you bumped into any of the issues I've mentioned? And what do you guys think, generally speaking, about the situation when it comes to bugs being fixed in a non-timely manner for the game? Do let me know. Let's have a conversation in the comments. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you guys on the next one. Till next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, stay safe, health is wealth, and until the next one, peace out.